They're part of Paris's identity, giving its rooftops their distinctive look. And it's thanks to these zinc roofers, the invisible tightrope walkers of the Parisian skyline.
You can't do this job unless you're passionate about it. You wouldn't last otherwise.
Their know-how could soon be classified by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage.
Roofers are the people making haute couture on the roofs of Paris.
This ancient profession has been adapting to the challenges of global warming and is now getting some well-deserved recognition. To photograph the roofs of Paris, you have to have a head for heights. Jil Mer has been immortalizing the rooftops of the French capital for over 10 years now.
Wow, what an extraordinary view. Amazing. You can still see the Olympic rings.
Superbe.
What's fantastic for a photographer is getting the chance to be on a temporary construction site. So the photos you take from a certain street with one or another Parisian monument in view, you're sure to be the only photographer to have those photos. So it's always changing and it's always slightly the same. That's the magic of Paris's rooftops.
A sea of grey that owes its colour to galvanised zinc, popularised by Baron Haussmann, the urbanist who transformed Paris in the mid-19th century.
There's this sort of fascination with zinc in Paris because it's also associated with what's known as the mansard roof, which is the roof that was created by Haussmann to cover 37,500 buildings over 17 years, which were made for the Parisian bourgeoisie.
Jil Mer crisscrosses the capital with his camera, climbing ever higher to get to his viewpoint.
It's narrower, but the narrower it is, the more it means we're in a part of old Paris. And that's awesome.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour, monsieur.
The photographer's fascinated by the workers who shape the zinc and restore the roofs, the zinc roofers. Their unique talents could soon be in the spotlight. Jil Mer championed the craftsmen for UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list.
Ah, there's Notre Dame, the spire of Notre Dame, almost finished. What a wonderful sight. We wanted to create some real momentum to help this community of roofers gain recognition from UNESCO. So we had to put together an application, sending films and photos to show that this community of roofers needs to be talked about to inspire the next generation. The trade's a key part of heritage maintenance because of its attention to detail. When you've got roofs like this, as far as the eye can see, it's an ocean of grey, a sea of zinc. But when you get closer and you really look, you say to yourself, but this is extraordinary, it's haute couture, it's an art.
Roofers, tightrope walkers with unique and little-known skills.
We bend the zinc, so using my tracer, I trace where I want to bend. I check the measurement, take the handles, and then we have a nice fold. We start with raw material and we get to something that's properly finished. And all this is done using the methods we've been taught, a way of working, and that's the beauty of the trade. Fortunately, our elders are here to pass it on to us. That's how we keep this trade alive.
Sylvain Lino has been a roofer for 15 years and wouldn't change his job for the world.
Yeah, there's a great view from my office.
Yet the sector is struggling to attract new recruits. Every morning, Paris construction sites are around 500 roofers short.
It's a tough job. It's quite grueling despite everything. People struggle to stick at it because of the weather, because of the working conditions, which can be difficult. It's part of the job, and yes, that's one of the drawbacks. But you have to keep passing on the torch, because if you don't, you're going to lose it all. You lose that know-how. There's one thing that I'd say to a young person who's curious: come and give it a try.
Zinc might give Parisian roofs its perfect grayscale, but its effect on temperatures is less cool than its palette. Zinc absorbs heat, roasting Parisian homes. Roofers experience it every day.
If we have an egg to cook, we can put it on the zinc. This summer I had to deal with temperatures of over 55 degrees. It burns your hands, it burns your knees. We worked from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. because after that we just couldn't handle it. It was too hot. It was impossible to work properly.
To help Paris meet its objectives prompted by the challenges of global warming, La Pure, the Parisian urbanism workshop, has carried out a survey of the French capital's rooftops.
There are around 130,000 roofs in Paris, covering around 32 million square meters. So that's a considerable surface area. Of these 130,000 roofs, zinc accounts for around 3/4. Zinc is malleable, it has a long service life, almost 100 years. It's environmentally friendly because it can be recycled. But on the other hand, it conducts heat relatively well, so it can actually contribute to discomfort on the top floors of buildings with zinc roofs.
Originally, attics were part of a building's insulation system, acting as a buffer zone for heat when temperatures rose. But little by little, they were transformed into yet more housing, where temperatures often become unbearable in summer.
When we took the cover off this roof, there was nothing under it. You can see, there was no insulation at all.
Roofers have been forced to adapt to climate change. In addition to their expertise in galvanized zinc, wood and slate, they're increasingly required to install insulation.
There are so many layers of insulation that the end result is less heat loss.
According to some professionals, this insulation is more effective in winter than in summer, and it does require homeowners to undertake major work to install it, as highlighted in the Paris at 50 degrees report.
There is a clear question of financial sustainability. The issue of financing is the main obstacle to continuing these policies of greening and updating buildings.
Another problem is that zinc roofing overheats not only the housing underneath it, but also the surrounding air. These findings came from a study carried out in the summer of 2023 by Eitan Levy's startup. His architecture firm's developing a solution to mitigate the effects of global warming in cities.
We're trying to create shade, more greenery, and make roofs accessible to people to cope with heat waves, and to counter the lack of space and green spaces in densely populated cities like Paris.
Planters attached to zinc roofs are an example of these cooling strategies. A pilot project has been installed on the former town hall in Paris's 4th arrondissement, which is now home to the Climate Academy.
Today it's 22 degrees in Paris, and right now we can see that on the zinc roof it's 47.5 degrees on the surface. Under the zinc in the attic of this building it's 28 degrees.
When there's a planter on the roof, the temperature doesn't soar. It hovers at around 20 degrees, both on the roof's surface and inside the attic, bringing down temperatures while also bringing people together. The idea is to create new social solutions too.
We'll be able to create outdoor spaces where you can have a meal, read a book, and maybe even when the time unfortunately comes that we have even worse heat waves than we have now, We could even consider using certain roofs to go up and sleep on.
Sleeping under the stars in central Paris, for Eitan Levy, it's not an impossible dream. These swathes of grey are yet to become a forest of green. In the meantime, the roofers are king here, nimble like the bird they're nicknamed after, cuckoos.
Cuckoo, I think it's because we're up high, like birds. We call a cuckoo a bird, and I think it's mostly that.
Birdmen who'll be whistling for a good while up there on their Parisian perch.